Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Injury Law Pod. I am your host, Eric Bartlett, 29-year personal injury lawyer, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things personal injury law related. And welcome to 2026. It's a great time. We all like to set our resolutions and probably not stick to most of them, but hey, it's worth the effort. And in my world, it's a great time to take a minute and think about what you would need, what you would need to know in order to be prepared just in case a personal injury affects you in the upcoming year. So, throughout the year on this podcast, I always talk about things that, if only you had known. Now that you're in the situation, did you come into it fully prepared so that if for some reason, unfortunately, you are seriously injured in some type of a personal injury, you're not left hanging out in the wind? Today's episode is a nice, kind of quick overview of some things that if you're listening to this podcast, you take immediate action. You sit down, you figure out what it looks like in your personal world so that if something tragic does happen, you're ready for it. And so this is about being prepared, not being paranoid. Again, I see it every day because it's the world I'm in. So I know injuries are going to happen. And so I have the insight to think ahead and hopefully get the message out to everybody else to think ahead. But again, you don't have to be paranoid or get too worried about this stuff. You just need to be ready just in case. That's what insurance is all about, right? Whether it's, again, auto insurance, home insurance, life insurance. No, we're just wanting to be prepared because life does happen and unfortunate things do happen. And you would much rather be ready for it than get caught off guard. So let's get right to it. Let's talk about why preparation matters in 2026. Again, most people, they don't even think about a personal injury until it happens. And that's just the nature of how a lot of what we do in our daily lives happens. It's just we go along thinking it won't be us. We won't be the ones in a bad situation. But again, it can happen. And by the time you need a lawyer, it's often too late to fix certain mistakes. So, right now, as we enter 2026, there's more distracted driving, there's more commercial traffic on the roadways, there's increased medical costs, and how medical bills are paid and handled, especially if it comes out of some type of a personal injury. There's faster insurance denials powered by automation and artificial intelligence. And there's also more surveillance and social media monitoring of people making personal injury claims by insurance companies. So again, you've just got to be prepared in case something like this happens to you. Preparation, again, isn't about expecting the worst. It's about protecting your future. So let's get to it. Number one on your 2026 checklist is you need to know your insurance like a lawyer would. So what do I mean by that? Most injury cases are limited not by injury severity, but by insurance coverage gaps. So what do you need to know before an injury ever happens? you need to understand bodily injury liability limits. And this is what you're purchasing when you buy automobile insurance coverage. You're buying coverage to protect yourself if you cause an accident. And then you're also buying coverage to protect yourself if somebody else causes an accident. And so, bodily injury limits, that's the amount of insurance that's available for a particular claim. And in Missouri and Kansas, you only need $25,000 of insurance coverage to be legal driving on the roadways. And $25,000 in today's world doesn't cut it. It's not, there's basically very few scenarios where there's a serious accident that occurs that $25,000 is going to be any type of meaningful money. So, number one, you have to take a look at your own coverages. And do you just have the bare minimum? Because if you do, you need to start quoting and finding out how much more it would cost you if you bumped it up, say, to 50,000. Or if you get to 50,000 and you're like, that's not so bad, then see what $100,000 does. Because number one, it's going to protect you if you cause the accident. Number two, on some coverages that I'm going to talk about here in a second, it's going to come into play to protect you. And at the end of the day, that's what we're looking at is if we're going to be out there on the roadways exposed to a lot of potential hazards, what's the best way to protect ourselves? Number one, having higher limits is going to protect you if you cause an accident, because then you don't have to worry about somebody suing you for money out of your pocket. You have the insurance coverage in place. But here's where it becomes more important. An uninsured motorist, so an uninsured driver, or an underinsured driver. And we see that scenario all the time where people are either driving around with no insurance or not enough to cover the significant damages that can come out of a serious accident. So uninsured motorist coverage, again, just as it is, it's there to cover you if somebody causes an accident and they don't have insurance coverage. Because as you listen to me talking, you have to think, if I drive out right now and somebody without insurance hits me, am I ready for that? Is my car covered? Am I going to be able to handle replacing my car on my own? Okay, so do you have insurance coverage for that? And then number two, if somebody that doesn't have insurance causes you injury, are you going to be able to handle that? Number one, do you have health insurance? That's a good start. Do you have any way to make up if you have to miss a significant amount of time from work? Do you have some way for that to happen? And then thirdly, if you're going through months of rehab, significant pain, you end up with permanent disability, do you have coverage to compensate you for that? Again, if the other person at fault doesn't have any insurance, are you ready? So again, uninsured motorist coverage. Underinsured motorist coverage is a scenario where somebody causes an accident and they don't have enough insurance to make up for all those things I just talked about. Are you ready? Do you have that in place? So you've got to sit down now and figure out how much auto insurance you can afford to fully protect yourself. And you'll be surprised because a lot of us, we look at it and we're like, oof, okay, I can get by with the minimum. But just see what bumping it up a little bit ends up being monthly to you. And is it worth it? I can tell you it is, because again, you just never know. So right now, great time, sit down with your insurance coverages and figure out, do you have enough? What does it look like to get more? In my world, I say you can't have enough. Every bit that you can afford, make it happen. And make sure you research insurance companies. What currently are the best insurance companies out there when it comes to handling claims? not just price. I always say, if you see companies advertising on TV a lot, they're usually offering the best deals on premium, but they're not necessarily the best when the rubber hits the road and you need them to come through for you. So make sure you research all of that. Also, remember this: medical payments coverage. In Kansas, it's called personal injury protection coverage. And either way, it is there to pay medical bills. It's no fault insurance. And you need to have, again, more than the basic. A lot of times, insurance agents will throw on $1,000 of med pay. Think about it. How far does $1,000 of medical payments really get you? Even if you have health insurance that's covering a large part of your bills, you're going to have out of pocket. And those out of pockets can add up. So again, is $1,000 really where you want to be? Check into it. In Kansas, you're going to have $4,500 as a base minimum. Again, in Missouri, there is no required minimum. So $1,000 is something we see a lot, but you can get medical payments coverage in $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. Check it out, see what you can afford, have it. Because if you are in an accident, it is no fault coverage to help you pay medical bills or reimburse you on medical bills. But it's a win-win situation to have a good amount of medical payments coverage on your policy. So just keep this in mind, that with an accident, I've seen life-changing injuries with only $25,000 available because no one checked this box. You've got to make sure you're ready for that, probably remote, but potentially very serious situation. Okay, number 2, build evidence before you ever need it. So what do I mean by that? Listen, after an accident, evidence disappears fast, sometimes within hours. So what's a great way to be prepared? As I've talked about before, dash cams. Get a dash cam. Have it in your car, have it on, have it recording whenever you're driving. The best ones record front and rear. There is nothing better than video evidence if a situation occurs where there's no witnesses, you know somebody else is at fault, but if you have no way to prove it, you have no claim to make. A lot of times at traffic lights, this is where we see the scenario, because you had the green light, you know the other person ran a red light, but if they say they had a green light, you say they had a green light, you're not making a claim. You have no way to prove the claim. Your word does not get over the hump or the burden that you have to make that claim. So dash cams. Phone settings. Make sure you have your location services set to on, because that way it's going to track your location. Again, if there's an accident, it's going to show where you were, when you say you were, and it may just help you prove your case. And cloud photo backups, make sure if you get pictures, things like that after an accident, those aren't going to disappear. Make sure your photos are safe. Make sure vehicle photos are saved, showing pre-damage condition. It never hurts to take some pictures of your car from time to time, because again, you don't want an insurance company coming back later saying, we think that was damage that was already there. They don't really have a reason for it, but they can say it and they can deny a claim. And it can also show the severity of the accident when it happened. And again, make sure you've got your emergency contacts labeled correctly in your phone, just in the event you're in a situation where you have had or have been involved in an accident and somebody needs to try to figure out who they should call for you. Police reports aren't always accurate. So everything that you have to independently prove your case, is huge, and you should always be doing things on the front side to make sure you're ready. And again, witnesses, there may not be any, they may vanish. You may get somebody's name and phone number, or the police may, and then they never answer. They don't want to be involved. So just keep all that in mind. Insurance companies, they look for reasons to deny claims. So you want to make sure that you're ready to counter everything they come at you to make that denial. Claims are increasingly decided by what's documented, not what's true. So the more documentation that you have ready to go, the better off you'll be. Okay, number 3, understand the medical side before you're hurt. So what do I mean by that? If you're hurt, you've got to know that gaps in medical care can kill legitimate injury claims. Here's what people get wrong. They think, I'll just tough it out. I'm sore, I'm beaten up, this hurts, whatever it looks like. I'm going to give it a while to see if it gets better. I'm going to take some ibuprofen, whatever that is. They wait weeks to get checked out. They don't tell doctors how the injury happened when they go see them. All kinds of things. I've seen it all. But if you're in an accident and you're hurt, here's what you need to do instead. You need to establish a primary care doctor relationship now. So again, if you don't have a doctor that you regularly see, having one that already knows you, knows your baseline, knows your history, that's going to be so helpful if you're in an accident. So if you don't have a doctor, get one now. And again, you need to know where urgent care versus the emergency room makes. A lot of people end up at the emergency room. And what you have to understand is, again, if you're seriously hurt, obviously that's the place to be. You need a full workup. You need to get checked out. You may need to have scans done right then and there to rule out any really serious injuries. But sometimes the emergency room is overkill, and an urgent care could do everything that you need done, obviously for a lot less and obviously a lot more efficiently. So just understand that it doesn't have to be an emergency room. Sometimes people are just thinking, I don't want to go to an emergency room. I'm going to have a long wait. There's a lot of sick people there. I don't know that anything's really going to get accomplished. You can go to an urgent care for a whole lot less and be seen by a medical professional. And then you need to be honest, and you need to be complete with the medical providers. You need to be upfront about what's hurting you, what limitations you're experiencing, and what happened. That's so critical, because sometimes we see situations where medical records come back and there's no mention of the issue that the person is now telling us about. And that's not good. So make sure you're getting all of that out there to the medical professionals, and that will also help them provide the appropriate care that you need. And then another biggie is, if medical people put you on a treatment plan, you've got to follow that treatment plan. If you get a treatment plan, they tell you follow up here, go to physical therapy, take this medication, whatever it is, and you don't do those things, that's going to come back to haunt you if something really seriously develops down the road, because now insurance companies, they're going to say, no, this obviously wasn't a big deal. The person didn't even bother to follow through with anything that the doctors told them to do. So keep that in mind. Listen, insurance adjusters, they used misappointments to diminish claims. The person was supposed to go to 10 physical therapy appointments and they made 6 of them. They're going to point that out. They love to scour medical records for inconsistencies, again, gaps in treatment, whatever that looks like, missing information, and they will absolutely hang their hat on that type of situation. So make sure you follow. Just keep this in mind. If it's not in the medical record, it didn't happen. And by that, you may be saying this or that or the other, but if it's not documented in the medical record, it's going to be really hard to make the case. Number 4, lock down your digital life. Listen, it's one thing to share on social media your world, but do it with people you know. Don't do it with the world. Your social media is being watched even before you file a claim. And keep this in mind, when you file a claim, that is one of the first places insurance companies go. I've had insurance companies point out things to me about clients where, the week after an accident where somebody was claiming they had a concussion, they were at a concert. That doesn't really line up, does it? Because if you're claiming you have a concussion, you have headaches, you have nausea, all those things, but a week after the accident, you're at a concert, a loud concert, that's a problem. And how do they find that? They find that on social media. So again, you need to be mindful that people are going to be looking at your social media sooner rather than later. Again, other common mistakes: posting vacations, workouts, status updates that you're feeling better, friends tagging you without permission, old post resurfacing out of context. All of this stuff can really come back to hurt a claim. And again, you may have a very legitimate claim, but now you have to explain away why it is that this is out there and why create those problems for your claim when it doesn't ever need to happen in the first place. So keep this in mind. AI tools can now scan photos, facial expressions, activity levels, timestamps. They can run all of this through artificial intelligence, and it can give them a whole lot of feedback, which then gives them an argument to diminish your claim. Check your privacy settings on your social media. Make sure you're really buttoned down on who exactly can have access to what you're posting or what's being tagged with you in it. So tag approvals need to be turned on. No posting during the recovery is a good rule to have. Go dark. Don't post anything on social media if you've been in an accident. And make sure you tell your family and friends, hey, I don't want to be in anything on social media right now because I'm going through this, and I know insurance companies could be watching. All right, number 5. This is a biggie. Know when to call a lawyer and know when it could be too late. So waiting to call a personal injury lawyer that handles these types of claims, that can cost you leverage. You may think that really nice insurance adjuster who's telling you, hey, go get your treatment, whatever, we'll circle back around when you're done. You think they're accepting responsibility for the accident. They seem friendly enough. So everything seems on track. Well, guess what? The reason people wait is because they think, I don't want to be that person. I'm not a person that sues people. Or again, the adjuster has been very helpful, very nice. Or I think I can probably work this out myself. There's no reason to get a lawyer involved. There's no reason to pay a lawyer. I can make this happen. I can Google. I can figure it out. The problem is it doesn't always go that way. And generally speaking, what I see when people are calling me that thought they would handle it on their own is they've made quite a few mistakes, and those mistakes are costly. And now they're looking to me to try to turn all of this around. And man, it makes it so much harder to get them full and fair compensation for their injuries and their damages. So again, I understand those concerns, those thought processes, but it never hurts you to call a seasoned personal injury lawyer. The call is free. The consultation is free. And you got to remember this. We work in a situation where we are only going to get paid when money comes down the road. We work for free up until that point. So it's no-brainer territory, especially for these situations. If you have a serious injury, you need to call a lawyer. If there's a commercial vehicle involved, you need to call a lawyer. Commercial vehicles, UPS, FedEx, semi trucks, any kind of delivery vehicle, any business owned vehicle, you have to recognize this is a big company, it has a big insurance behind it. They go to work immediately. Immediately. If it's a serious accident, they've got boots on the ground at the accident scene while the accident scene is still fresh. They are working very hard to limit their exposure. And if you think you can just sit around and handle it yourself, everything will work out, you are sorely mistaken. So if it's a commercial vehicle, call a lawyer. Policy limits concerns. If you're worried about whether there's going to be enough insurance available to cover everything that you've went through, call a lawyer. A lawyer can figure out where all the possible claims are. You may not be thinking about the right places to look for money. The other thing is, once all that's determined, a personal injury lawyer can dial in and figure out how to maximize the money that you're going to get with whatever the limited amount of insurance there is. So again, very important. And if an insurance company wants to take a recorded statement of you, you need to call a lawyer. A recorded statement is basically giving 2 bites at the same apple. What do I mean by that? It's basically allowing them to get you nailed down initially, and then maybe down the road, if this gets into a lawsuit and they're taking your deposition, now, if you said something different initially than what you're saying now, they're absolutely going to use that against you. They're going to either use it as an inconsistency, they're going to try to make you out as a liar, they're going to use it any way they can to defeat your claim. So if they want a recorded statement from you, you better get a lawyer, because you don't have to give a recorded statement, FYI. But again, maybe it is good to talk to the insurance company in a non-recorded fashion, but boy, you want to have good legal counsel beside you before having that phone call. And then finally, if the injury is affecting your work or your daily life, it's obviously a big deal. You need to call a personal injury lawyer. A good personal injury lawyer that has handled lots and lots of these claims, they're going to work to make sure that evidence is preserved, like I talked about earlier. They're going to prevent you from making damaging statements. They're going to help to make sure you're getting the medical resources that you need, and they are going to maximize the money that's out there available to compensate you for your injuries and all your damages. Just keep it in this frame of mind. Calling a lawyer isn't aggressive, it's protect. Just because you get a lawyer involved doesn't mean you're sue happy. It just means you're taking the necessary steps to protect you from something that has significantly affected your life. Okay, so as we go into 2026, prepared beats lucky. Know your insurance, preserve evidence, protect your medical record, control your digital footprint, and get legal guidance early. You don't prepare because you expect an injury. You prepare because you value your future. I would encourage you, step away from this podcast, review your insurance this week, share the episode with your friends and family, and save our number, our contact information before you ever need it. Those 3 things, you'll be set and ready to hit 2026, and you won't worry about a bad situation if for some reason it happens. You'll be able to concentrate on your medical care, getting better, and knowing that you're going to get compensated at the end of all of it. We're going to put up in the comments an injury readiness checklist so that you'll have a quick look, check off piece of paper PDF, however you want to use it, so that you can make sure you've gone through and done all the steps that you need to. And again, you'll be ready for 2026. Here's to hoping everyone has a great year, and hopefully you never need to make the call to us. But if you do, we're here. And otherwise, be safe and be well.